Yeah, obviously it's going to be spooky. She's going to be curious. She's like, what? That's not logical. This isn't math. What is this? Hello, hello. Welcome to Marshmallow Reads. I'm Marcy, and today I'm going to tell you about the 5 books I read in October. I meant to read more during this wonderfully spooky month, but it just didn't happen like that. The first book I read in October was Witchy by Ariel Rees. I really enjoyed this one. I think the world was really cool. So in this world, the longer your hair is, the more powerful magic you can wield. And it's kind of like, this world's hierarchy. And those that have great magical power and, the long hair, they are enlisted into the military by force. But if you are deemed too powerful, then you get labeled a threat to the state and are burned at the stake. Oof. And that's exactly what happened to Ninive's father, the main character of the story. And this happened when she was little. Several years have gone by. I think she's like somewhere in high school. And now the time for her evaluation has come, and she may or may not get conscripted. So Ninive's father had really, really long hair and was super powerful. And I guess because of that, was deemed an issue and had to be burned. And Ninive also has ridiculously long hair, but she actually uses magic to conceal it, to make it look shorter than it actually is, so that she doesn't become a target. During this evaluation, she's like working on a team with some other people, and she is not doing any sort of like magic fighting, so she can try to hide her magical abilities, but she just can't help but give out like A+ battle strats. And that kind of like draws a lot of attention to her from like the evaluators. And in the medical part, they also find out that she's been using magic to hide her hair. And, you can probably guess what happens after in this story. But it went in a weird direction. So I thought it was very clear that it was going in one specific direction, but then it went in a different one, and that was okay. But it didn't really do a lot in this book. Like, it felt like there was a lot of setup to this world building and the characters and getting us ready for the story, but the book ended before anything really happened. So I'm like, I like it. I really do like it, but it just wasn't enough. I wanted more. I also really like the side characters. Pril and Batu were wonderful characters, and I hope they become future helpers for Neve, but again, we don't really know where that's going here. Oh, and there is actually a Raven character that comes in like the second half of the story that had the best facial expressions. Like, look at this derpy boy. I love it. Yeah, so I hope to see a sequel out soon, and I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read in October was The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. One of my friends let me borrow this, which was really fun, and I had a lot of fun like reading her little like notes in the margins and stuff. That was pretty great. And this is kind of special because this is a story, a romance that takes place in grad school. This particular student is in like a biology department, but she does a lot of stuff that is pretty similar to my own research and like, that whole like STEM academia stuff. Like, it felt so real, and it was really nice. So our main character, Olive Smith, is a third-year PhD candidate, and because of silly reasons, she ends up in this fake dating relationship with none other than Dr. Adam Carlson, the biggest asshole in the entire biology department. And of course, over time, their fake relationship starts to become something a bit more real. And guys, I absolutely love fake dating tropes. Like, I don't know what it is, but it tickles my brain real good. And I was hooked from the start. And, at first, since she is a PhD student and he is a professor, I was a little worried about the appropriateness of that relationship, but they do check to make sure with their department guidelines and the school to make sure that it is appropriate for them to date. So as long as Adam doesn't do any like official mentoring or collaborating with her in any like formal capacity, it's all good, and that was good enough for me. I will say that there are some scene setups that felt a little bit contrived, like the whole impromptu sunscreen rubbing scene. Like I saw that a mile away, but it was still a lot of fun. So like I don't really care that much. Oh, and there were so many good quotes in this. Like, I'd like to eventually graduate, ideally without sobbing in a bathroom stall after each committee meeting. Ooh, it feels so real, and it kind of hurts, but like in a good way. It did have the thing, like every other romance novel, where there's a miscommunication section, and like I didn't want it to arrive, but it did. So I just kind of skimmed through most of it, and that did help make that section a bit less annoying for me. But then it picks up again and it gets spicy. And I was also excited to see that it does look like we have some asexual representation in Olive, probably like a demi sort of thing. So that was nice to see. Yeah, I overall really enjoyed the story, and this is my first STEM grad school setting that I've ever read, and I just felt so seen in a way that I've never really felt before, and that was just really nice. Like yeah. So thank you again, Jessie, for letting me borrow it. Such a good book. Oh, in case you didn't know, this is actually also a Reylo fanfic. Look at the cover. Like, of course that's Kylo Ren and Rey. Like, it was it was pretty funny, but honestly, I think that kind of added to the story for me. So yeah, a fantastic 5 out of 5 stars for this one. And on a completely different note is Tender is the Flesh by Agustina Basterica. Holy crap. This, I didn't really know what I was getting into. Like I did, but I did not actually. I'm inserting this before I get into any of the details because it is pretty graphic, even though I'm not going to get into that many details. Just the thought of it is a lot. So trigger warning for cannibalism and other gruesome stuff like that. This takes place in a world where some sort of virus enters the ecosystem, the world ecosystem, and it infects every single animal except for humans. And I forget what the virus does to you, but basically we can no longer eat meat, any meat at all. And these motherfuckers decided that cannibalism was a better option than just becoming a vegan. Like, damn, I could maybe see this happening for real, just because some ding-dongs are so insanely stubborn, as we've seen with the current pandemonium going on. It takes a little while for humanity to transition into being okay with eating other humans, but it does happen. And not surprisingly, it starts with them choosing to eat immigrants, the poor, the marginalized. Of course, it would be these types of people who were first to be chosen to be eaten because their lives were deemed less worthy than others. Like, the meaning is pretty clear in that one. I for real want to do a deep dive into this. Like, I want to reread it. I want to flag it because there's just so much in here. Like the idea that human flesh is equal to capital or money even before eating it. Like currently, right now, our human bodies, our labor are what is producing money for all these massive capitalists, and how little of that money is getting seen by the people producing that work. And it's also making a direct connection to human suffering and death caused by global industries like mining, fast fashion, food production. Sorry, that was definitely a bit of a tangent, but like I needed to have that. But Jesus Christ, like the descriptions of the tannery where they make human hide, like there's the thing about this, like eventually they start using what is it called? Like genetically engineered humans. They don't even call them humans anymore. They call it special meat. So to put as much distance between the consumers and the reality that they're eating human bodies as they can. But yeah, you're following a guy who's working in one of the slaughterhouses, and it's fucking disgusting. I gagged a few times. I had to like pause a few times. I could not just blow through this. It was a lot. You get to see the kind of people who would choose to work in this sort of environment, especially like being the owner of a tannery. That guy was an absolute psychopath. And I'm not going to get into the details about the whole like breeding part of this, but holy crap, that specific section describing the females in their cages and that situation, I felt like I was actually going to be sick. It was so much. And absolutely, because we are talking about human beings that were genetically modified to grow faster so they can be farmed and slaughtered faster to produce more and more meat. It does have a lot to say about the current state of factory farming and, the undue suffering that chickens and cows and pork go through. And it definitely made me plan some more vegetarian and vegan meals. I know I will probably never go full vegetarian or vegan, but reduction of meat consumption and animal product consumption is also important. So you don't have to be perfect. You can still make a difference by reducing. I have so much to say about this book, but I'm going to stop it here because otherwise I could continue on for another hour. So if you are interested in reading more about this, then I would consider picking it up. I give it a 4 out of 5 stars and I want to read it again, but I also don't, Yeah. Next up is The Death of Jane Lawrence by Caitlin Starling. This one was really fun. Like I saw this cover and it absolutely hooked me in, and it's a new release. It came out, I think, sometime in October. Ooh, this was fun. So you can kind of tell by the cover that it's like gothic, spooky. It takes place in like Victorian England, but it's not England, but it is. Like it's fantasy England. I don't know how else to describe it. And our main character, Jane, is not really into the whole marriage and kids idea, but because it's like Victorian fake England, she kind of has to. So she is looking to do a fake marriage, basically. So she finds this guy, this doctor who doesn't have a wife, and she's like, yo, you want to get married? We can have like a sort of business partnership. I will do your hospital, your whatever doctor's office's accounting, and we'll be all good, right? Well, in this case, they agree, and he's like, you can never come to my house, this like old spooky manor, because of reasons. And he doesn't actually tell her why, and she's like, okay, fine, whatever. But then like their romance starts to blossom, and that was actually like surprisingly cute. And then because of circumstances, like there was mudslide or something that keeps Jane stuck in the family home for a night. That was the big thing Augustine was worried about, the husband, that she would never stay a night there, but can't help it, she has to stay. And she sees some ghosts, some spooky specters around the halls. And yeah, obviously it's going to be spooky. She's going to be curious. She's like, what? That's not logical. This isn't math. What is this? Ooh. And eventually she comes across this monster that like feeds off guilt and shame. It's so evil because humans are such easy prey, because all of us, well, most of us are just filled to the brim with guilt and shame. So Jane has to deal with some like internal struggles based on like what she's learned and like the meaning behind this creepy manor. And the doctor also has a bunch of these like doctor friends, and there's magic involved and like maybe kind of a cult thing going on. And all Jane wanted to do was mind her own business and just continue living her life on her terms. But she got sucked into this spooky magical world and is just fighting for her life, fighting for her new husband. It was pretty intense. I have questions about the ending and like the specific choices that Jane made, but like I guess good for them. I don't know. It was interesting and a very good spooky read. I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. The last book I read in October was The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. This one takes a look at what happens to the final girls after the candlelight vigils, after the moments of silence, after someone plants the memorial shrub. Like, what happens to these girls once life starts again? Everyone else gets to move on with their lives, but these final girls are left looking over their shoulders in fear for the rest of their lives. And, you know, they need a lot of therapy and probably a lot of drugs, probably both medical and otherwise. So this book is following this like group therapy filled with final girls and their doctor. And they've been meeting for like decades at this point, because these final girls are from franchises, from horrible events that happened like in the 80s and the 90s. And they're pretty direct parallels to real world slasher film final girls like Halloween, Scream, Nightmare Before Christmas. Jeez. No, Nightmare on Elm Street. Okay, let me try that again. The girls in this therapy group are based on characters that were final girls in real life slasher movies, like from Halloween, Scream, Nightmare on Elm Street, those kinds. And you kind of get to see what they might be like if they were real and had to deal with these horrific traumatic events. It does go into the criticisms or discussion points about final girls, like why are they all or basically all white? Like one of the girls in this group, she was black. She was the final girl in basically Friday the 13th version in this world. And when they made the movie version of her story, they made her white. Because society. There is a real world difference in how the general public values and sympathizes with little white girls versus little black girls. And it does touch on that, which is good. And it also just has to do with like America's obsession with these girls and like with victims of these horrible attacks. And it's weird. They, you know, in this world, these attacks were real and they were horrible, but they still turned those real life stories into movies and franchises and just made millions and millions of dollars off of their stories. And that's kind of paralleling with the true crime obsession nowadays. Like, don't get me wrong, true crime has been hot forever. Humans are curious, they're morbidly curious. A lot of money is made off of these real life tragedies. So it's also talking a bit about that. And then I was reading, and then it just hit me that this is also a book about sexual assault and trying to live life after that happens to you. Like, you are a completely different person, and try as you might, you cannot just go back to the person you used to be. And like it was hard. It was hard to read that when I made that realization. Like, these girls were just minding their own business, not looking for trouble. They didn't ask for it, and this was done to them anyway. Like, and then one of the characters says that she was told that she should just quit dwelling on it because, like, it happened so long ago. Why are you still thinking about it? It's like, yo, no, this shit never goes away. So yeah, this was a good reminder. And like, I've thought like this for years now, even though I am an avid true crime fan. Like, the focus should be on the victims and their families, and we should forget about the killers. Like, if we could, we should forget their names. They don't deserve to be remembered. They should not gain notoriety for the heinous crimes they committed. It just, you know, every once in a while you see, oh God, I saw this one photo of someone's wedding where they made table numbers and each of them was a different serial killer. What the hell are you thinking? No, we shouldn't be obsessing over these villains, these horrendous people like that. Like, what's wrong with you? So yeah, this is a good reality check in that way. Overall, great book. I give it a 5 out of 5 stars. All right, that is it for me this week. I only read 5 books this month. So far, November is going a little bit better, but we'll see how that goes. If you liked this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you really liked it, consider subscribing to my channel. I'm getting ready for 3 uploads a week in December for like a Vlogmas sort of thing. So look forward to that. And yeah, do something nice for yourself this week. Do something nice for someone else. And with that, I will see you all in the next one. Bye!